Born in Birmingham in 1953, Charlie Moore graduated from Minor High School and was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in 1971. He played 14 seasons in Milwaukee, primarily as a catcher, and helped the franchise to its first World Series appearance in 1982. Known for his gritty play and capable bat, Moore became a fan favorite during his time in Milwaukee. He concluded his career with the Toronto Blue Jays, and after retirement made a successful career in the sales industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the Legends welcomes 2025 Alabama Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Charlie Moore. So take us back to Minor High School.
Wow, that's a long time back.
You played 3 sports. You're a basketball player for a couple of years. You played quarterback on the football team. Baseball player, obviously. What are the special moments that you remember about your athletic career at Minor?
At Minor, yeah. Basketball for 2 years, but I enjoyed playing basketball, and it was a fun sport. And but on my senior year, I decided not to play to get ready for baseball. So I did that. But playing at Minor, my senior year at Minor, of course, we won the county championship. And that year we beat Berry, of course it's now Hoover, twice that year. In my first 2 years, they beat the drum out of us for 2 years. So that was a special moment. And we went to the state finals against Robert E. Lee of Montgomery down at the Crampton Bowl. And they had a great team. And we got beat that night, for the state championship.
Now y'all played like Berry, Pleasant Grove. Who was kind of in y'all's area?
Newtown, of course, was our big rivalry.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but that was the first game of the year, and we beat them all three years that I quarterbacked there. So that was a big deal back then.
Yeah, kind of the Minor Parkway rivalry, sort of. Yeah. Now, it's my understanding that your dad was a baseball player. He was a pitcher, and did that kind of lead you to becoming a catcher?
Well, my dad told me, he says, the quickest way to the big leagues is being a catcher. So that's why I ended up back, because early, little league, pony league, I played shortstop most of the time, and then he moved me to catcher. Because when I got to Minor, Barry Holliday was a coach, and I caught my last 2 years at Minor. We had a senior catcher my first year, and I ended up playing shortstop that year. But it was fun. The high school memories, old teammates. I still get in touch with some old teammates right now, and we play golf together and stuff. So it was a fun time back there.
Yeah.
But I think the state's championship, playing in that game, was eye-opening and tough losing.
Yeah.
But that was a crazy thing that year. We was in the semifinals against West End, and they had a good team, and of course we ended up, it was a tied game, at the end of regulation, and they had some kind of crazy playoff rules. We had the ball eight downs. I mean, 4. We'd take the ball first or whatever, and you'd run 4 plays, and then the other team would get it for 4 plays, back and forth. So ended up we were like 4th down, that last down, and we maybe had 2 yards on the other side of the 50. And our favorite pass play at that time was down 10, 12 yards and then out to the sideline. But they had that well covered, and Tyrone King, our wide receiver that played at Alabama, he ran down the middle of the field and he threw his hand up, and I happened to see him, and I just threw it as far as I could. He ended up catching it, running it down to about the 5-yard line. I think he got caught from behind, but we ended up intercepting them trying to get back across the 50-yard line, which, like I said, that was nuts. the way they had that done back then. But that was a crazy game for us.
So you get drafted by the Brewers in 1971. You go a couple years in the minor leagues, and then you get called up. So walk us through kind of those first few years in Milwaukee and your introduction to being a Major League Baseball player.
Oh man, it was. We were in '73. I was in AAA at that time because I started out in AA, and I got called up in the middle of the year to AAA. And we were in Omaha, Nebraska, and I had hit a home run that night, which was good too. And after the game, our manager called me in the office, said that I was going up to Milwaukee. I mean, you know, of course, first thing I did was call my dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's such a baseball fan. He meant so much to my career. And so we go back. We had to fly back to Evansville, Indiana, which where AAA was at, and packed my car up and drove to Milwaukee. And Gorman Thomas, which got called up too, he was the outfielder, the center fielder for us, and he said, "This is where you go this way, take this way." I got caught in somewhere I didn't have no idea where I was at, and I finally stopped somewhere and asked for directions, and I just got lucky. I wasn't but about half a mile from the interstate.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I got to Milwaukee, the entranceway to Milwaukee is the top of this hill, and then you come down the hill. And so when I got there, you know, I was asking for where do I, you know, directions where I go. And he said, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm, you know, Charlie Moore. I just got called up." He said, "I don't know who you are." He said, "You had to park up here."
You're looking for County Stadium, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for County Stadium,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I had to park up on top of that hill, carry all of my baseball stuff, my luggage, walk down this long, probably a half a mile to the main entrance, you know, and get there. And the game's already going, so I missed that game. So we walked in, and they took me to the general manager's office. I had to sign a contract, you know, for that last month of the season. But to walk in and see how big the place was at, you know, and that was an old stadium, County Stadium was. But it was an exciting time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, things you dream about, you know, as a kid, growing up, and I guess all that hard work.
What's your thought process during that time, and what's going through your mind as you're going through this whole process and getting called up? And I mean, are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you all that? Are you confident? Are you know? Tell me about your mindset as you approach that first.
Yeah, approach that first game I participated in. I was there for one day, and we're going to New York City, to New York, to play the Yankees. And that was the last year of the old Yankee Stadium before they shut it down and remodeled it. And so my first road trip was to New York. Of course, that was, you know, small town boy, country boy going to the big city. And of course, first game, you're nervous. You know most of your teammates because I was in spring training with them, you know, for a couple of years, and you know, of course, in the spring training, they shipped me back in, you know, to minor leagues, which is normal. Mm-hmm. And but you know, you still don't know if you could do it or not, or you want to earn respect of your teammates, and that was my, you know, bust your butt way out there on it. Work hard, and I know guys will appreciate it. And nervous, yes. My first at bat, yeah. That was a nervous time, you know.
Is spring training kind of the place where the clubs are kind of seeing if this player can perform? Is that kind of the,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
so they throw you into
You
that
know, like,
environment. Let's see how this guy does
you
down
know,
here. And
like myself, I wasn't a Robin Yount, or, you know, I wasn't a Paul Molitor.
Yeah.
You know, I was a steady player, and to get them to see that I'm there to help the ball club in any way I could, because I actually could play it. I played every position on the field besides pitcher and shortstop. I mean, not for a long period of time, but third base, second base, first base, one game. I played all three outfield positions at one time or another. And so being able to do that, you help a ball club, you know. And they saw that I would bunt if I had to, hit and run. If there's a man on second base, most time with no outs, you're trying to move the guy over to third base, and they know I hit the ball the opposite field if I wanted to. So I earned their respect, you know, and that's the biggest thing.
now you came in really in an incredible era. I mean, you and I were talking before. I mean, the legends that were not only playing the game at that time, but were kind of at the end of their careers. And one of those legends is Hank Aaron. And, you know, you think about his time, you know, as an Atlanta Brave and a Milwaukee Brave, but he ended his career with the Brewers, and you and Mr. Aaron had a little history together.
Yeah. That was now that was a thrill, you know, to have him play with us. He's a soft-spoken man. He'll lend his ear to you if you want to ask him questions, and it was amazing sometimes to watch him batting practice or in a game. Some balls he hit that, like, if it was me, if a ball was inside, you know, jerk it foul.
Yeah.
He had a way to hit that ball, and that ball just a straight line.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun to watch. But yeah, I was on second, and in his last at bat, he got a base hit, and I scored. So, you know,
Last run he ever drove in.
Last run he ever drove in.
Yeah.
What, he had 4,000 and something
Yeah.
RBIs in his career, and I was his last.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Especially, you know, my dad used to take me to Atlanta to watch the Braves play, and of course, you know, to watch Hank play.
Here you are playing
And
with
playing
him
with
now.
him, yeah.
Who are some other guys that, you know, right when you came into the league that were like, you kind of get around and you're like, wow, you know, Brooks Robinson, we mentioned him.
Yeah.
Who are some other guys that you're kind of in awe of as you're coming into the bigs?
Tony Oliva, big first baseman. He just went into Hall of Fame last year, I think it was. And Killebrew, Harmon Killebrew. You know, he's a big home run hitter.
He could swat it.
He could swat it. He's a Hall of Famer too. But like you said, Brooks Robinson. We'd tell a story on Brooks Robinson. Or we were in Baltimore, and I always got to the ballpark early. We hardly ever took the bus to the ballpark. We had a group of guys that liked to be there early, so we got there. Robin Yount and several other ones, and we had a coach named Frank Howard. You know, 6'8", 6'9", played at basketball at Ohio State, but he ended up playing baseball, and he could hit a ball a long way, and Brooks was telling us that he said there was a Sunday afternoon game. He said anytime Frank got up to the plate, he said I'd moved all the way back to the grass from third base. I'd be on the edge of the outfield grass. He said he hit the ball so hard. He said at that time I was in my prime. He said, of course y'all know I had good hands. He said he hit the ball and I threw my glove up. He said the ball tipped that little button on top of caps. He said that tipped my cap and hit the left field wall.
Oh, wow.
How hard is that?
Yeah.
And with him back that way, and he couldn't even get his hands up fast enough to catch it.
Talking about exit velocity.
Yeah.
So,
He had the old Detroit Al Kaline.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great hitter and a great person too. You know, and there's so many out there. You know, Frank Robinson, Carew.
Rod Carew.
Rod Carew.
Incredible hitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Yeah. So, I got to play with a lot of those guys for a year or two before they retired. Yeah. So, it was a fun time. I mean, that was the old school.
Yeah.
That was old school baseball right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, y'all had a lot of turnover from a managerial standpoint, and when you think about Milwaukee Brewers managers, you think about guys like Tom Trebelhorn, Renee Latchman, people like that. But Harvey is the guy that I want to talk about, and I started doing some research on him as a player, going back to the '50s in Detroit. I mean, lifetime 300 hitter. AL batting champion. I think one year he hit 353.
Yeah. Wasn't he Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think he was. You know, you're talking about just an incredible player, 10-time All-Star. As a manager, tell me about his managerial style. Tell him about how he approached the game, because I think he came in the middle of the season in '82.
Yeah.
So what was it about his approach that was impressive, and what was your personal relationship like with him?
Yeah, he. When I was in the minor leagues, he was an instructor in the minor leagues system, and I first met him, and your ears just perked up every time because you want to hear what he had to say about hitting, and of course that was, I think it was in June of '82, if I'm not or middle of June, and we were 10 games out. We already fell 10 games out of first place, and we were having a tough time. It's the reason was Buck Rogers, the manager, before Harvey took over. We had a bunch of veteran ball players who've been there for 5 to 7 years, 10 years, some of them, and every day we come to the locker room, we'd have a different lineup. So everybody's going. He didn't know how to use the bullpen, and Rollie Fingers was with us, and he didn't like to throw more than one inning. And sometimes Buck would bring him in the 7th inning, and there was a lot of going on at that time, and. Finally, Milwaukee pulled away. It kind of surprised us. We didn't know what was coming. And we were in Seattle when Harvey took over, and a lot of us knew him already. I actually was a coach for bench coach, hitting coach for us before he lost his leg. And so he took over, and when he took over, it was like night and day with the ball club. Our first meeting with him was in Seattle, and he says, I don't care, I want you to respect this organization off the field, but on the field, all I want you to do is play hard. Have fun and play hard. And he said, if you argue with the umpire, get mad, if you throw a helmet, make sure you hit my wooden leg, not my other leg. And that just broke everybody up, and everybody just kind of, sit back and said, okay, we're going to have fun.
So he could add a little humor to the proceedings.
Yes. I mean, we had our pitching coach, Calvin McClish. What was his name? His name was about that long. Calvin Coolidge, Julius Caesar McClish. That was his full name, but about a full-blooded Indian. And he took care of the pitching rotation and how to use them, and Harvey knew anyway. So, but lineup-wise, he threw us out there every day. Said, "Go get them," and it was like a switch turned on, and from there on, we went from, being at the bottom of the league to, by the end of middle of September, we were in first place. And that's all because of him, the way he managed to, wanted us to have fun. Every team has, even good teams have stretches where they'll lose 4 or 5 ball games or something like that. He said, everybody goes through that. So if it happens, it happens. We'll just work our way out of it. He'll explain to you.
So he kind of took the pressure off a little bit.
Yes, he did.
But he also probably knew what y'all had. I mean, y'all had
Oh, yes.
3 Hall of Famers. I mean, and your lineup is loaded. Well, 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And
then you look at the lineup. Molitor had 20 home runs. Robin had 30, and Simmons had 20. Ogilvy and Gorman Thomas had 20. I think the only one that didn't have Cecil Cooper.
He was an incredible hitter.
Cecil Cooper was a great player.
Yeah.
I mean, he don't get the kudos. If he'd played it in New York or California somewhere, he'd be in the limelight all the time. But like he had, me and Jim Gantner, our short section baseman, we're the only ones that didn't hit home runs.
But you hit, especially later on in the year. I mean, when you get to the ALCS against the Angels, you're on fire, and then you get to the World Series, against the Cardinals. I think you hit 350 in the World Series. Is that right? Let me look at my notes on that. Yeah.
Was it 350 in the World Series?
460 in the ALCS. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I always thought I was a pretty good clutch hitter, and of course they ain't no bigger than the World Series to get excited and motivated and that type of stuff. Because 162 games is a long season. You may average an off day every couple of weeks. So.
What do you remember most about that World Series experience? What's when you think back to that? What are the things that come to mind? Obviously, your success was something I'm sure you think about, but like, what are some moments in there that were particularly cool to you?
For me, I want to go back to the last week and a half of the season. Okay, we go to Boston for a 4-game series. We sweep them. Okay. Now we go to Baltimore, the last series of the year, and we're 3 games up, 4-game series. Baltimore beats our butt 3 straight games. Here we are, the last day of the season, and we're playing Baltimore for the American League Championship, for the East Coast. And of course, we won. Robin Yount had a great day, hit 2 home runs, I think, that day. And then we leave Baltimore and fly all the way to Anaheim or LA or whatever you want to call it. And we go there for the playoffs. So he goes to the World Series. And we lose the first 2 games there. And back then it was a 5-game series. So we load up, fly up to Milwaukee. It's cold. It was cold. I said, well, we got these California boys right where we want them. And we ended up sweeping them in Milwaukee. That was an exciting time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, Baltimore was we won that game, and I was so emotional drained at that time. I couldn't even celebrate. Everybody running around. Me and a couple other guys went into the trainer's room and just closed the door. Man, it was very emotional at that time. Yeah, to even make it to the playoffs, and then lose to the California Angels, and then go home and sweep them, and of course the city went wild.
Yeah, what was it like to be on that first Brewers team that made it to the World Series?
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a big deal for the city.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. It was, you know, half the stadium was on the field after the game. You know, after we won, you know, they all, you know, the fans come out of the stands. I mean, it was amazing. You know, all night long, it was party down. So we had a couple of days off, but that meant so much to that city. That ball club is still to today. I mean, that's what's so crazy because we'll get, you know, the whole team get invited back for about every 5 years before we all croak.
So you go back about that often?
No, I go back. I try to go back once a year. There's a couple of golf tournaments and stuff, charity stuff that I do, you know, up there with some friends. And so, you know, that meant so much to that town. That kind of really, you know, everywhere you went, okay, you talk about the World Series, then we go to World Series. And of course, the pressure we were faced with in Baltimore, then California Angels to win that one, then to the World Series. I mean, what pressure? I mean, ain't nothing any harder than what we went through with those two.
What was it like? What was it like playing on that stage? What was obviously, you know, I'll never get to experience anything like that. It's unbelievable that you were able to participate on that stage. And what was that like?
I think that team we had, we didn't do anything different. We didn't change the way we did things before the game or during bat practice, or you didn't see any difference in the clubhouse. So it's like, okay, here's just another game, you know. And I don't think anybody, I mean, we didn't play bad in that series. You know, we went 7 games. And of course, losing it never really good, but playing in that, I mean, to me, what we had just gone through was talking about, and the play in the World Series, I'd be honest with you, I didn't feel any pressure. I mean, I really didn't. I don't think most of our guys, I didn't see, you know, most of them you could tell were guys tightening up or whatever, but I don't think, I mean, a play here or call here or that, we could easily have won that.
Could have been a different outcome.
Yeah, it could have been a different outcome. But they had a great team. St. Louis had a great team that year.
Now, when you think about your best years at the plate, you know, that 79 to 81 window, you're really hitting the ball well. You know, I think in 79 midseason, you were at like 377. I think in 1980, you hit for the cycle, steal a couple of bases. What was it about that particular time? Are you seeing the ball better? Have you got more confidence? What do you think led to your success during those years?
Well, no, before I moved to the outfield, that was because Ted Simmons and Vukovich and Rollie Fingers, we traded in 81. We got them before the 81 season. Before that, I don't know. George Bamberger was the manager at that time, and he was a great too. George was a good manager. He could get ejected. He'd be out there for 5 seconds. He'd get ejected from the game if he had a legitimate argument. Of course, he'd drop a bad word here or there and get kicked out.
Is that something that the players like, by the way? I mean, is that something, do players like that, the manager getting ejected? Because he's standing up for you, right?
Yeah, he's standing up for you, yeah.
Okay.
And some of it, if the club is struggling and it might not even should be an argument, you know, you'd have somebody run out there and jump in the umpire's face just to kind of maybe light a fire under the guys. Say, hey, he's, you know, fighting hard for us. Let's, you know, fight for him. So, but you know, George Bamber set me and Buck Martinez was the catcher, and I would catch 3 days a week. three. We had a 5-man rotation. I'd catch 3, and Buck would catch 2. And that, in those 2 days rest, made you, especially catching is a pretty tough job. All that squatting up and down and everything, and calling games, and that time mentally it can get to you too. But I think those couple of days of rest really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because wasn't a big guy for a catcher. I was small for a catcher, and 2 extra days really helped me recover, to feel stronger when I went out there. Of course, then when I moved to the outfield, that was a piece of cake out there compared to behind the plate. So,
What was the biggest challenge for you, though, moving out into the outfield? I mean, I know obviously catching presents its set of problems, but changing positions can do that too.
yeah. Well, it's during bat practice, like, you know, you're not going to catch bat practice. So I'd go to the outfield, shag balls or whatever, you know. And so when I moved out there in spring training of '81, we had a good coach. His last name was Simplicio, and he was a good teacher. And we'd practice every day or stay after. I would stay after with some other guys that wanted it and
To learn the outfield.
to learn the outfield.
Yeah.
Because that's when I was moving out there, and I had a fairly good arm, but throwing from right field to third base, kind of like, or right for the, I mean, it was tough for me because I just used that little, you know, snap throw to second base, but there you got a long way. Heck, when we first started spring training, I'd roll it to third, hit the infield dirt, and roll all the way there. But after a while, throwing the long toss, I'd do it and throw it as far as I could.
Yeah.
You know, on the line, as far as I could, and it gradually came.
So making that adjustment between throwing down to second and making the long throw.
And throws, yeah. And getting jump off the bat. When you got where, you know, you got where that you could, when the ball come off the bat, you could actually know where it's going, you know. And if you do enough practicing doing that, that's why I can't understand some of these guys go out there and are terrible. Then you got some good arms today, but I developed in a pretty good outfielder at that time. You know, I led the league in putouts, and that year I think it was, that might have been '82 or '82, and but that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it was worth it because I knew if I was going to play with Ted Simmons coming from St. Louis, you know, switch hitting catcher, a Hall of Fame catcher.
You had to do what you had to do.
Yeah. So I went out there and actually won a job in the outfield that year. Yeah.
All right, so I found a quote about you, and I want to see what your thoughts were. I found this online, and so this says, Moore wasn't the first name you would remember from the powerful early 80s Brewers teams, but he was athletic, versatile, and came through in the clutch. He was an essential tool for the club in winning games, and he was one of the guys in the bottom half of the lineup that made the club exceptionally dangerous in those years, even after they got through the heart of the lineup. An opposing pitcher got no relief with tough outs like Moore. I wish every season could be represented by a guy like Charlie Moore. He needed a little work, but he brought talent and enthusiasm, and he fought hard to find ways to help his team win.
Wow.
Is that an accurate depiction of your playing career?
I think so. Yeah. I think that we talked about some of this earlier, you know, where we hit on it, and that's the way I approached it. That's the way I wanted it to be. I wish it had happened throughout my whole career, but you know, but at that time, it couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah.
You know, and and that makes you feel special when somebody writes something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I need to get a copy of that. But that's pretty good.
Now, tell me about what's different about being a Milwaukee Brewer. Like, what is kind of the defining thing? I mean, you know, obviously you made a brief stint in Toronto, but for the most part, you're a Brewers guy.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about that franchise that we need to know? What is the brand of baseball that's being played in Milwaukee?
I found out with Bud Selig being the owner, you know, he was pretty tight with his money. You know, he was very frugal, and he gradually built that team up after we got Harry Dalton, the general manager from Baltimore, and he took over, and with him doing what he did to build the club, to strike and get, you know, guys like Rollie Fingers and Ted Simmons and Pete Vukovich, you know, won the Cy Young that year. You know, get those guys in here and the guys that had been there for quite a while, you know, with Robin Yount, Molitor, me, and Gantner, and a lot of guys come up through the system. And you say, hey, they finally want to win, you know, and the support of the city, you know. Early on, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough because we didn't win too many ball games early on. Of course, I signed in '71. I think they moved from Seattle to Milwaukee in '69. So that was a very young franchise, you know. But doing that the way they did it, and the fan support we got, I mean, once we started showing improvement, and this ball club, the way Bud, this is my thoughts, is if there was a troublemaker or somebody that didn't fit the Milwaukee, that didn't want to work hard or didn't want to play hard, they got rid of them. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to name names, but that's what they did. I mean, you know, if they didn't fit with the club that was there, then they got rid of them. You know, we got rid of a couple of pretty good ball players, but they were more of a headache or pain in the butt in the clubhouse than anything. So, you know, it didn't take them long to figure it out either. You know, they'd be there 6 months or a year, and if they didn't fit in, bye. It's kind of crude, but I think it's true.
Now, you told me before we went on that you wished you'd have ended your career in Milwaukee, and tell us kind of how all that went down. I know there were some difficult moments there, right there at the end of your career in Milwaukee, and you know, give us your take on what happened.
Yeah, well, and that was in '86, winter of '86, and I came off a halfway, you know, pretty good season, not great, but you know, pretty good season, and I just ended a 5-year contract that I had signed, and so agents started negotiating, you know, trying to negotiate, but they did a little bit, and then I signed to become a free agent, and so I did that part of the business end of it, and as soon as I became a free agent, I had 5 clubs. We called my agent, was talking, and you know, and then the owners had a meeting, and just a few days after that big meeting of all the owners, everything shut down. I mean, all 5 clubs wouldn't even talk to my agent, you know. I said, what the heck's going on? Well, the collusion. They all got together and said, we're not signing no free agents until, I think, June of that year. And, you know, Milwaukee offered me a contract before that, but it was for like a 20% cut in pay after all I did for the club to play there.
You've been there for 13, 14
13
years,
years,
you know, yeah.
And not didn't have a bad year. Heck, but taking a 20% cut in pay at that time, and I didn't think I deserved it.
Yeah.
You know, and I found out the hard way.
Yeah, and you still felt like you had some in the tank, you know.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Of course, you know. And then after that June date, I don't know exactly what day it was. It was in June, the first part of June, and it was funny. All 5 clubs called back, and Toronto made the best offer. And so I ended up playing that 1 year up there, but that was tough. Toronto was a good organization, great city, really. It's a huge city, over 4 million people at that time, and clean. I mean, you couldn't ask for a whole lot better. So, of course, we played in that old stadium they had, Expedition Stadium, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And it really made you mad because you look over the left field wall and they're building a new Sky Dome over there, and I never got to play in it. I think they went in that following year or something like that.
And then you had a fellow Alabama boy on the team with you, Jimmy Key.
Yeah, sure did.
What was it like playing with him?
He was a great guy. He was a good guy. He could pitch now. Yeah. I think he ended up hurting his arm or something and kind of hurt it. But Jimmy Key's a good guy.
Yeah, fellow Alabama Sports Hall of Fame inductee.
Yeah, exactly right. I was hoping to see him when I got inducted, but he didn't show up.
Yeah, we got to get him back around a little bit more.
Yeah. I think he lives up.
I think he lives in Florida now. I think he's in Jupiter, Florida.
Jupiter. Yeah. He was a good
golfer. A little bit high dollar, more so than where I live.
Yeah.
So.
I think he made a little bit more than I did.
Well, definitely made more than I did. So. You know, one of the names when you think about the Brewers, one of the names that always comes up is Bob Uecker. You know, and I wanted to talk to you about him and what was it like having that guy around? I mean, he's not only famous for, you know, what he did with the Brewers, but he's on a national level. Oh, yeah. You know, and so what was it like having him around the clubhouse?
Just what you see on TV is about what you get. I mean, it's every day he'll be cutting up. You know, he threw bad practice a lot.
Really?
You know, early on. He'd come out there and get the uniform and come out there. He was a great BP pitcher. And really? But he was always cutting up. I mean,
self-deprecating and yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember one time, and we were in Detroit, and Detroit had a little pub. You go there after a game, and they had great sandwiches and stuff like that. So, and nobody drank beer or nothing.
No, of course not.
No. But there's probably at least 10 of us, and we ended up closing the place down, and our hotel was probably 7, 8 blocks away. So Uecker stood up and said, "Follow me." So down the middle of the street, here we go marching. He was doing cadence, and we walked from that bar all the way to the hotel with him hollering. And there was a cop drove by and saw Uecker and said, "Hey, Uecker." He said, "Y'all all right?" And he said, "Yeah." We just kept on going all the way but he's always coming up with something.
So the character that he was out in public life was the same as it was that you knew.
With us.
Yeah.
You know, the ball club,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. He was kind of like part of the ball club, you know.
Now, we've talked a lot about your players, and I do want to get back to that in a minute, but I mean, you playing in the 80s, I mean, like, I'm so envious that you got to kind of hang around a lot of those guys that played in the major leagues in the 1980s, but we've talked a lot about your teammates, but who are some other guys around the league? And I know at that time y'all weren't playing National League teams, but who are some other guys on other teams that you got to know that you liked, you know, that you might see on a road trip, you know, people that you made friends with, and then who are some other guys that you're just kind of like, wow, what a baseball player, during that era.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, Don Madley, he was a hard-nosed guy. He's one of those guys that I'd like to have him on my team. George Brett is one of those guys that played hard and always dirty. If he didn't get dirty, he didn't have a good game. And guys like that. And the Tremble. You mentioned earlier about being a big fan of it. He was just.
That was my guy.
You look at him, you look at me. I mean, you didn't think much of it. His build, his height, or how strong he could be. But he was a great player.
Did you make friends with other players during that time, or was it more of a rivalry?
No, it was more, business. You didn't, really didn't. No.
Who are your best friends on the Brewers teams?
Gorman Thomas, Pete Bukovich, Robin. Then we go from Don Money was special to me. Little old guy named Jamie Ish, a little left-handed pitcher we picked up from Atlanta. He was crazy. Mike Caldwell. Gosh, you keep me, Ben Ogley, Cooper. We still stay in touch.
Y'all
with
keep
each
up
other.
with those guys? Yeah.
Pretty good group.
Tell me about the life of a catcher. I want to know more about that because there's a lot going on. Obviously you're communicating with the pitcher. You're communicating with the backup catcher. It's my understanding that that's a big deal too. Is the other catcher is relaying information to you. You got a lot going on. Do you ever talk to the hitters? How much communication are you having with the umpires? Tell me about that dynamic.
No, I didn't talk to hitters too much.
Do some catchers talk to hitters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some catchers do. The worst was Munson.
Thurman, yeah.
Thurman Munson. Yeah. It didn't matter who's up there. He tried to get inside your head, make you thinking about something else besides hitting. But he was funny. And the umpire wouldn't stop him. You could say something to the umpire.
So he was trash talking.
Shut him up.
Yeah.
Not totally, but it's just something off the wall that didn't make any sense at all. I think he just thinks of stuff to say, off the wall stuff. But I think he was the worst. Most catchers, first time in the series or something, first of the year, first time around, you'll say, "How you doing?" "Yeah, good." That type of stuff. But I wasn't a big talker.
You don't talk much to the umpire?
No.
Do you ever argue balls and strikes? Is there?
Yeah.
Do some people do that?
Well,
some catchers.
Oh yeah. I've argued and got kicked out of games before. The worst one that I could think of was getting kicked out in Oakland, and I was playing right field at that time. Ned Yost was catching, and then Ted Simmons was DHing. So you had all three catchers involved, in the game at the same time. Foul ball goes back. Ned Yost runs and tries to jump, and he hits the fence, and really, really hard. They had to take him out of the game. So they bring me in from right field to catch, because Simmons was DHing. So about 2 innings later, this umpire was squeezing. Pitch after pitch after pitch. I was catching it. Boom. I wasn't even moving my mitt. The ball's boom right there. Ball one, ball two. Ball two, I stood up and said something. I didn't look at him. I was just, what you're supposed to do, just look at the pitcher. You won't be able to, you'll have to edit this.
Okay. Give me the PG version.
A PG version?
Yeah.
I don't know if there is one. Anyway, okay, the next pitch. he fouled it off something. Next pitch was same place up it, boom. I said, Dale, that's a dead gum strike. He said, well, if that's a strike, I'll blankety you. I said, well, you must be a blankety blanky, because that was a strike. He said, you're out of here. He reeled me in bad, and that was the worst. Worst setup that I ever had.
Yeah.
I've been kicked out of a few games, but nothing that bad. I didn't get fined for it. He didn't turn it in for kicking me out of the game, so he knew I was right.
But you could, a catcher. I mean, you can frame it up a little bit. I mean, you're
a little bit.
You're trying to be convincing on that.
I was
too.
about. If I wanted to sit on the outside with a right-hand hitter, I put the home plate, the corner, right in between my legs, and then I put the heel of my glove right on the corner. So if I catch it out here in the web, it's 3 or 4 inches outside. But if you don't move your glove, it's tough not to call it. Mm-hmm. And same thing the other way. And you most of the time you get the call.
And you're a little bit of an illusionist. I mean, that's kind of part of what you do.
Yeah, well, what they're doing today, how catchers are framing that thing today. Umpires jump your rear end back when I played.
Yeah.
They're thinking you're trying to pull something on them. If you put it here, then just all will.
Yeah.
That's the way they teaching catchers now. And catchers don't even know how to call a game.
Yeah.
They got earpieces, what I understand. Pitchers got earpieces. And whoever the pitching coach or whoever calls the pitch for him. And he don't even have to put a sign down. Mm-hmm. Well, I understand it. Mm-hmm. So, that's a different type of catching.
I recently had another podcast interview with Steve Woodard, who he was a pitcher for Milwaukee. Sure. Played in y'all's organization.
Yeah, met him before.
He's the head baseball coach at Bevel State Community College.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And in Fayette, he lives in Jasper. But I asked him the question, why is it difficult for catchers to be good hitters? And one of the things that he said was that it's fatigue. Yeah. That's part of it. Would you agree with that? Or because it's hard to be a great fielding catcher and also a great hitting catcher. So what's your take on that?
That's why I admired Munson, Fisk, Simmons. Here are these guys catching 140, 50 games a year and still hit for average. Because, like you said, you didn't have much time off. But the hardest part is not only physically, it's mentally. Mentally, it'll wear you out after a certain amount of days, especially if it's hot and things are not going good. You're calling a game. That was our ball club. Most ball clubs back then, they taught you in the minor leagues how to call a game. What to study. What hitters do. We had books of every player in the league. We got a book on Atlanta, or we got a book on Baltimore, and every player in there. Okay, he hit this fastball to right field. He hit this fastball to left field. He hit a breaking ball here. They had lines growing wherever he hit it at. So that was on every. And we'd go over the pitchers before a game, and how we actually asked him how does he want to pitch this guy. And we had any, or if I had an idea, I'd rather do this to set him up for this and this. But mentally it was tough because you're calling the game. Mm-hmm. Back then you're calling the game.
You're kind of like the quarterback out there. Almost.
Exactly right. And like you said, you're calling your own plays.
But there's also a comfort level between the catcher and the pitcher. Some catchers and pitchers don't jive too well.
Yeah, that's true.
For you, I know you and Mike Caldwell, y'all hit it off extremely well. But what makes that camaraderie between a catcher and a pitcher?
Shoot, I think a lot of it starts off the field. I mean, you become friends. You spend a lot of time with each other. And that pitcher end up with confidence that he trusts you, you know. With Mike, like you said, Mike Caldwell, he won 20 games one year with me catching, and Teddy Higuera, left-hander. He's another left-hander, and he was great to catch. It was like sitting in a rocking chair back there and catching him whatever your mitt's at, he's going to be close.
And you want somebody that's, from your standpoint, I mean, you want somebody that's got control. You don't want somebody that's all over the place, So you can be comfortable with a pitcher.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
okay. I had one guy that I could honestly say I hated it. I hated him personally, but as a pitcher, I mean, because he had no clue, where the ball was going. They threw mid-90s, upper 90s. But when one ball would tail and the next one would slide or hit 58 feet in front of home plate, I said, "Dadgummit, he'd beat you to death."
And you're having to go to work,
That's mentally challenging. Put it that way.
All right, so I want to. I've got one more question, and then I want to do a little exercise here. But the question that I've got before we get to that is, who is the most underrated player that you played with or against? Somebody that kind of flies under the radar a little bit. We mentioned Cecil Cooper, and that's probably a candidate. But who is somebody that was underrated but very, very good that played during your era?
Mm-hmm. Dog, that's a tough one.
I mean, you're an AL guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ben Ogilvy was kind of underrated. He wasn't known for his defense, but when he came to us, he worked really hard at it and became a pretty good outfielder. Mm-hmm. And I know we had guys tell us, like the Cardinals, they were surprised that, even the media was surprised how well we played defense. I mean, we had a lot of guys hit home runs, but we had a pretty good defense club. And who else would I want to put in that category?
For some reason, a name that's coming to mind is another Alabama guy, is like Willie Wilson. I mean, like there's a guy. I mean, I don't know, is he underrated? I don't know, but when you're thinking about 1980s players, he's not the first person that comes to mind. But I mean, I think he's like 12th on the all-time stolen base list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could run.
He could run.
He could definitely run.
So there's somebody.
I didn't know he was from Alabama.
He's originally from Montgomery.
Montgomery?
Yeah.
Huh.
Sure is. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. You gave me Ogilvy, so I'll let you off the hook on that one. Yeah. So let's move on to this next thing because I'm very interested in this. All right. So I'm going to name a player, and I want you to give me one word to describe that player. Okay, I've got 10 of these, so we need to kind of get through this pretty quickly. But I'm going to name a player, and you just give me one word to describe that player. First one is Robin Yount.
Great.
Okay. Next one, Paul Molitor. You can't say great.
I know it all right. Special.
Okay. Ted Simmons.
Brilliant.
Cecil Cooper.
Cecil Cooper. You want me to do these fast?
You can do them fast, or slow down a little bit if you need to. Take your time. Take your time.
Golly.
There's an underrated one right there.
Yep, I missed that one, didn't I? I just considered him great, so I don't consider him, underrated.
Yeah.
Cecil Cooper. Finesse.
Okay. Rollie Fingers.
Hothead.
All right. Tell me a little bit about that.
No. I should have called him a crybaby. No, he was one of the guys that complained about everything.
Yeah.
Rollie complained about it. You know, or he'll get on somebody. But thing about Rollie, he would, if somebody gave it back to him, he could take it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, then he'd just shut up. You know, but he'd get mad. He'd get mad about anything. Nothing's right.
And he only wanted to pitch 1 inning at a time? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
1.5 innings.
Yeah.
He'd rather just pitch it to one batter.
Yeah.
It'd be his goal.
I met him on a plane one time going from Kansas City to Minneapolis. He was sitting on a plane. Obviously, you recognize him because he's got the handlebar mustache. And my dad went up to him and introduced himself, and we got his autograph. I still got it. So I mean, that's my interaction with
Yeah, he's a
Rollie.
pretty nice guy though.
Yeah.
But you just at first when he joined the ball club, you didn't know how to take him. He complained about the bed in his hotel room. I mean, just anything.
Yeah, but you warmed up to him.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you had to. You had to laugh at him most of the time.
Yeah. All right, the next one is Pete Vukovich.
Wow. Mad Hungarian. That's 2 words.
We can add a hyphen in between those two. Yeah.
Yeah. Strange. In a good way.
Man, I can tell y'all had a camaraderie.
We hit it off so well when he first joined our club, and I don't know why, but me and him got along really good. I mean, we still to this day we'll at least talk once a month.
I hope these guys are going to watch this. I hope your teammates are going to see this. All right, the next one is Gorman Thomas.
Gorman. I don't. I'm trying to figure out them other words I use. My vocabulary is not too great. Magic.
Okay. Don Sutton.
Senator.
Tell me about that.
Huh?
Tell me about that. You said senator?
Yeah.
Okay.
He could hold a meeting anytime. He'd walk in the room and speak out loud, and guys would just look at him and see what he had to say.
And he's he's an Alabama guy. Yeah. Did y'all kind of have that? Y'all talk about that a little bit when you came on the club?
Yeah. I caught him a few times, matter of fact, and we did pretty good together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an unbelievable pitcher.
Yeah.
This next one is a guy that I have really enjoyed watching on the MLB Network, and y'all kind of caught each other at the tail end of your career, but in the beginning of his career. But Dan Plesac.
Dan Plesac, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to know him at all, or? Because he seems like a character. I mean, he is like.
Yeah, I think when he first came up, I was there for a couple of years. I forgot what year he came up.
I think he came in there in '86, maybe something like that. So right there at the tail end of your.
Yeah. And I think, what I understand, he said, "Oh, you're a nice guy."
Yeah.
But I didn't really know him.
Yeah.
I mean, personally. But he fit in pretty good.
And I guess being on a major league club, I mean, it's kind of like anything. I mean, if you've got a large roster, I mean, you're going to be closer to some of the guys, and you may not know some of the other guys. I mean, are the starters closer to one another typically, or does that matter?
Yeah, we don't.
Okay,
no.
So you could be friends with somebody that, Yount could be friends with somebody that never sees the field hardly.
Yeah, hardly. The backup guy or utility guy that comes in. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And then my last one is Mike Caldwell, your guy.
Stormy. He's the only guy that I ever saw that would go on a road trip and he'd carry a briefcase. And about the only thing that's in the briefcase is ketchup. He ate ketchup on everything.
Why'd he carry a briefcase?
To carry his ketchup. Don't ask me. I mean, that's just the way he was.
Well, and there's quirks too with
Yeah.
some of the players.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of got to put up with all the and superstitions and weird things, and I mean, you're having to. A lot of times, you have to, most road trips. I mean, right? You have a roommate on a road trip. I mean, you're having to deal with all these idiosyncrasies and things like that are going on.
Ted Simmons called Caldwell storm damage. Dirty Mike. I mean, he had a lot of. He goes to the pitcher mound, looked like he'd been planted in the dirt for the last hour before the game. He always looked dirty. Well, he had that hat he wore for a head in about 4 or 5 years. I think he wore the same hat. That thing was ugly.
Now, you've had some accolades too. I mean, you're on the Milwaukee Brewers Wall of Honor, and now you're a 2025 inductee of the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. What do those things mean to you?
Wow, that's the Milwaukee was kind of a surprise. That was the very first selection of guys for that year. I mean, they started it. And to be on that first wall, of course, with all the Hall of Famers, I mean, with Aaron and all of them, Sutton, and Simmons, Robin, Paulie, and all those guys that went in at the same time. We played a lot of years together, a lot of years up on that wall. And be there, it was special to me. But the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame meant something special. It's something special to be part of this. You walk up and down these stairs, and there's so many memories, football, a little bit of everything. I mean, and to get that award was great. The only thing I wish my mom and dad could have been here. Yeah. Wish it had happened 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
I lost my dad right before, the induction, and that was a hard time for me. Because I know he would have loved to be in here that night.
I'm sure you made your daddy very proud.
Yeah, and my mom too. Heck, my mom was a pretty good athlete herself. She played softball for years, and I had, of course, I had 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and they were all well. My one sister passed away, but my sister and my 2 younger brothers. I got 2 brothers. One that's 12 years younger, and one that's 14 years younger. My mom and dad started a second family. But I was lucky. I grew up with a good mother and daddy.
Yeah.
They cared for us, whoop your butt at the same time. They kept you in line.
Same with me.
Yep.
Well, listen, man, this has been an absolute blast, and I have enjoyed taking a walk down memory lane with you and
Well, I appreciate it.
talking a little MLB history and learning more about you. Let's go play golf sometime at Horse Creek or Musgrove.
That sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.